People had died doing this, but I needed to get the pictures. I had to show people what was happening. In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes on one of my most dangerous and eventful photography assignments when I documented deforestation in Cambodia. The publication of the photos even led to me being publicly criticized by a country's government. This is the story. Hi, my name is Sean Gallagher and I'm a professional photojournalist and filmmaker. For the past 20 years, I've been working for clients including National Geographic, The Guardian and the Pulitzer Center. Here on this channel, I want to share with you some of the skills that I've learned throughout my career in order to help you improve your photography. In this video, I want to take you back to 2020 when I worked on a story about deforestation in Cambodia. It turned out to be one of the most memorable and quite dangerous assignments, and I want to give you some insights into what goes into a photojournalistic story like this. Before we get started, if you'd like to learn photography directly from me, then come and join me in the Photographer's Studio. This is my online home where you can take my photography courses, you can chat with me and get feedback on your photos. There are online video calls with other members, and you can join people around the world all improving their photography together with me. Oh, and if you just want some quick tips to get started to improve, then download my ebook, The Camera Doesn't Matter. Links to both of these are in the description below. Okay, let's get started with how I found the idea for the story about deforestation in Cambodia. I mean, how do you even plan a story like this? And from a photographic perspective, that's where we're going to start. I'd always wanted to work on a story about deforestation, even as early as when I went to the Atlantic rainforest in southern Brazil when I was a university student and I witnessed firsthand the effects of deforestation. But I wanted to find somewhere a little bit closer to home as I'm based in Asia, so I was looking for stories in this region. Now, when you're looking for stories as a photojournalist, it's really important to stay abreast of the news, to read magazines and books and even scientific journals. This is how you find good stories. And as one of my heroes, Werner Herzog, once said, you must read, read, read. Read. So I came across the story of Cambodia's problems with deforestation when I was doing some research, and I thought it would be a really visually compelling story because as a photojournalist, I'm constantly thinking visually. So I'm thinking images of trees being chopped down, for example, or burning fields, and I just knew that that would make for compelling visuals. So I flew into Siem Reap in central Cambodia, which is world famous for the Angkor Wat temples there. So I actually made my way immediately north, directly towards some of the nature reserves that I'd read about that were being affected by deforestation. And as our cars got closer to the reserves, something strange started to happen. I could smell smoke in the air. And when I looked out of the car window, I could almost immediately start to see fields burning. It's like the ground was grey and black where fire had ripped through the land. And I'd barely started my travels, yet the problem was already becoming really clear. So as we were moving, I immediately jumped out of the car and decided to launch my drone, which I'd brought as I knew it would be the kind of perfect tool to document what was happening. But I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing when I looked through the viewfinder of the drone's footage. And there, in front of me, the earth was scorched. There were trees lying all over these fields and there was smoke just blowing everywhere. And I just knew right there that I'd made the right decision to go to Cambodia to document this story. But I needed to find a way to tell this story in a unique way. I didn't want to just document what was happening. I wanted to show something different, and that was going to be the next big challenge. As I mentioned before, the filmmaker Werner Herzog has been a really big influence on me, and I distinctly remember watching a lot of his films before I went to Cambodia, and there was one in particular that really influenced me, and that was the film called Lessons of Darkness, which is a documentary that was done kind of photographing the oil fields in Kuwait after the Gulf War. Now, I can't show you the clip of the movie here, but you can click the link in the description so you can seek it out. But in that film, there are these really iconic scenes shot from a helicopter over the burning oil fields, which reveal this completely kind of hellish landscape filled with fire. And this was the inspiration for my film Cambodia Burning, which I produced from my time over the subsequent weeks in the country. Now, for that film, I decided to use a drone for all the visual sequences because I wanted to try and show the causes and effects of the burning of the fields and of the deforestation. I also wanted to create something that was a bit more poetic, that wasn't just a straight documentation of what was happening. Because I really feel that, especially with environmental issues, you need to find a distinct visual approach to make people pay attention, and you've got to go beyond the kind of polar bear on an ice cap type images and do something different. Then you also have to find the human connection to these environmental stories, because that's what really makes people care about the stories, if you can show them how other people are being affected. And that's why I decided to hire a Cambodian writer and a poet to narrate the words that accompany that film. I didn't want the voice in the film to be mine because I didn't want to project my opinions onto the film. I wanted it to be the voice of the Cambodian people reflecting on what was happening to their country. I thought that was really important, and it was a decision that I'm really glad that I made. But shooting the film like this had a real danger because, as you can probably imagine, this is the type of story that many people in Cambodia didn't want to be told, which led to some real dangers while I was shooting. And that's what I'm going to tell you about next. I knew that to tell the whole story of what was happening in Cambodia, I needed shots of deforestation happening in real time. So in order to do this, I actually teamed up with a local grassroots organization who did patrolling in the forests that were being affected. And they were trying to document the illegal deforestation that was happening. It's a really risky job for many of them, as the members have been harassed, they've been beaten by loggers and thugs associated with the loggers, and they've even been arrested by their own police and government. Tragically, some activists have even been killed while carrying out these patrols as well. So when I joined the group, we rode out on motorbikes one day and set off into the forest to try to find the illegal loggers and to start documenting their activities. We were sleeping and cooking in the forest, and I was living side by side with the patrol, which was a really unique experience. But we were constantly on the lookout for loggers. The telltale sign was when we could hear chainsaws in the distance coming from deep in the forest. One day we came across this logging yard, and the members of the group warned me that we needed to take pictures fast because they told me that the loggers would probably become pretty hostile, especially when they saw my drone. So I launched it and started shooting as quickly as possible. At first I shot wide. Then, as I got a bit more confident, I took the drone a little bit closer. And then after that, I took it even so low that at one point I could see the loggers' faces and see them looking up at the drone. But I was quite afraid that it might get shot down, as I knew that people in the area were known to have guns. It was at this point that I hear a shout, "We have to go!" One of the team screamed at me because they'd spotted some of the loggers mounting motorbikes from the nearby logging yard, and they were heading in our direction. At this point, my heart was just racing. So I turned the drone around, landed it as quickly as possible, and then jumped on the back of one of the motorbikes, and we just sped away from the logging yard. And the loggers were chasing us for a while, but we managed to get away eventually, and they stopped chasing us. It had actually been a really close call, and speeding away on those motorbikes on the rural roads was really quite dangerous. And sadly, even a forest defender lost their life just a few months later, just doing exactly the same, racing away on those motorbikes while trying to escape the logging yard thugs. But I knew I'd got the shots I needed. Had it been risky? Yes, but I knew that I'd got the pictures. The next step was to get the work published. I had to get them out to the world. But I didn't expect the response that I would get once they were published and released internationally. Just getting out of Cambodia was a relief in itself, because I was a little bit paranoid that somebody would know about what I was doing and would confiscate my photos or footage, but I managed to board my flight and made it back home. And when I got back and I started editing the pictures and started looking at the footage and putting together my film, Cambodia Burning, I really started to realize what I had. I was able to reflect on the pictures, and I knew that I had something special. So I pitched the photos to various publications and managed to get them published in outlets such as National Geographic and Yale Environment 360. These were fantastic publications, and I even got a better response when the film was published, and it started to get screened at international film festivals and even won a few awards. And all of this started to draw attention to the issue in Cambodia. But it was those visuals. It was the combination of the drone footage and the Cambodian poetry that seemed to really capture people's attention and draw them to the story. Then the big surprise came. A couple of months after the photos were published and the film was widely distributed, an article appeared in the Cambodian government's newspaper, the Phnom Penh Post, with the title, "Pralong Documentary Wins Awards, Draws Ministry's Criticism." Now, the article claimed that Cambodia's Environment Ministry actually disapproved of the awards that my film had been given, and claimed that the group that I'd spent time with in the forest were doing it just for financial benefit. Pretty ironic, since the government has been implicated in benefiting from Cambodia's deforestation in many articles. So to say that I was surprised to see this was quite an understatement, but in a way it made me quite happy that the story had reached all the way to the government and that they felt it deemed public response. When people tell me that photojournalism is dead, that it doesn't have any impact anymore, I really disagree with them. Has my story changed anything in Cambodia? I don't know. Did it raise awareness of what's happening there? Definitely. But you never know what the ripple effects are of your photographs and what impact they may make. I just hope that my pictures help give voice to the people and the forests of Cambodia to show the reality of what's happening there. Because of the criticism in the Phnom Penh Post, it's probably not that safe for me to go back to Cambodia anytime soon, which, makes me sad, because I met some incredible people there and it's an amazing country, incredibly beautiful. But I remember my mentor, the late Philip Jones Griffiths, who was one of the most influential photographers during the Vietnam War. He told me that one time he got a letter from the South Vietnamese government banning him from re-entering the country after they saw his kind of iconic pictures documenting the effects of the war. So I'm quite proud that I can kind of continue this legacy of photojournalism highlighting these injustices in the world. Because good photojournalism should be about exposing the wrongs in our world, exposing things that those in power don't want to be seen. So is photojournalism dead? No. Is it still relevant today? I think absolutely, but it's harder to do because the media landscape has changed so much, and it's really tough to make a living as a photojournalist. But if you've made it this far in the video, then I think you're clearly interested in real photography. So if you're an amateur yourself, or even an aspiring professional, then come and learn with me in my online home, the Photographer Studio, where you can learn photography directly with me. We don't focus on gear and settings too much. We're focused on humanistic photography, storytelling, images that mean something. So if you want to learn from my experiences, you can get courses, get my personal feedback on your photos, and join a community that really cares about real photography. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a like, and if you have any questions about my work in Cambodia or life as a photojournalist, please leave them in the comments section below. I'll see you in the next video.